could talk a little bit about language. Your native language is Spanish, correct?
Yes.
Did you learn any other languages? You said you learned English before you came here, or
Yes.
Yes.
In
Okay.
Canada.
Okay. What was the process like to learn English? Was it difficult?
Well, the United States is a big influence back home, so we do have, cable, and I used to watch a lot of TV in English. So through that, through school, because we had English programs, and through a English institution that I went to, they pretty much taught me the basics. So for me, it wasn't something like very foreign kind of thing. When I went to Canada, I was actually advanced already, and I didn't even know about it. But it's just that I also like to listen to music in English, so I would buy the CDs and then get the lyrics and read the lyrics while I was listening to music, and that's actually how I first started learning English.
Okay. At this point, do you think in English, or do you still think in Spanish?
I feel like to speak English, I think in English.
Okay.
And then to speak Spanish, I think in Spanish, is because going through the translation in my head is just way too difficult. So, and sometimes you cannot translate the words or sentences from Spanish to English or vice versa. It doesn't really work like that.
Okay, yeah. This is a rather odd question, but do you notice any difference in how the English language affects the English native culture versus the Spanish language affecting that culture? Is there any significant difference, especially in thought process or whatnot? Have you noticed anything?
I've noticed that in the English language, everything is very straightforward, and sentences are very short. So people, as I said before, I feel like they're colder when they approach you, like, hi, how are you? Okay, fine, bye. Back home, or at least in Spanish, sentences are longer, and there is more sentiment to it, and more passion in the way we say things, and like conversations are kind of longer in some sense. And I feel that people, when they talk, it's a different sentiment in English. And my friends tell me that I'm a lot, warmer when I speak in Spanish than I am when I speak English.
Okay.
And I do sound different. I'm a lot more, friendly when I speak Spanish, and I'll use more friendly words and say words like, all right, honey, and stuff like that. For me, that in English is an absolutely no. Like, I'm not going to do that. I won't tell you sweetie, honey, or anything like that. But it's just the way I've seen people behave here. And so when I actually see someone treat me as sweetie, honey, or any of those words, it's usually older people, and they're trying to be polite to you, or nurses, something like that.
Sure.
But it's not something that usually comes from, my friends, let's say.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. What or who, I guess, has helped you most since you moved to the United States? What has been a benefit?
Over here in the university, we have the international office, so I do have to use a lot of documentation, like the I-20, which is a paper that we use to travel from this country to another countries, in and out. So that always has to be signed, and the international office takes care of that, as well as paperwork we need to have here done. And every time I had to start a new semester, I had to go to the computer and sign and say yes, I'm from Venezuela, I'm gonna stay here, which is a very long and stressful process, but they kind of try to make it easier for us. And then sometimes I also get the dollars here because we have a different currency, and the government has this entire process from where we had to send a letter from the United States and say, yes, Arianny is going to school here in the United States, so she needs to pay for the school, and they will assign the dollars, and then those dollars will be sent back here, and I'll pay for the university. But it's a whole very long process, and international office helps me take care of that, as well as the personnel over there try to make it as easier for me, as they can. And because, as I said, it's very stressful to be doing that every semester.
Sure, yeah.
And that's something that we international students leave that American students don't, and that they don't know how many things we need to do and how many obstacles we confront every single time, every single semester, because there are legal issues here, and we have to do this every semester.
Yeah.
And then I will say that something that keeps me going here is keeping myself busy, bowling, which is something that I came here to do, and studying and hanging out with friends sometimes, although I don't really have much time for that. Maybe, have a boyfriend that, gives me that my family is not giving me right now, because I live here on my own. I need that caring and a hug every, once in a while, and those kind of things that really matter at the end of the day.
Sure, yeah. Speaking of home, you said that there's really no point to going back because you can't practice in the field. Do you have plans to go somewhere else in the United States, somewhere else in the world, and do you want to establish kind of a sense of home elsewhere if you can't go back to your original home? Do you?
Actually, I started doing pre-nursing to go into nursing school probably next semester and 2 semesters, just because in the United States, international students are not allowed to go to public med schools, which are cheaper and easier to get into. And then private schools will take international students, but they're very expensive, and they take 1 out of 100. So the odds for me to get into med school here are very, very low. And plus, even if I will be able to get into a private med school, I don't think I will have the money to afford that. And I actually went into checking for even loans and stuff like that, but as an international person living here, they don't give me loans only if I have a United States citizen who actually signs it for me and says, yes, she's going to pay for this loan, which is someone that I haven't found, and I don't think anyone per se will be, will say, yes, I'll do this for you. So I said, okay, well then, let's do nursing, which is something closer to the field that I actually can practice and get into school. And after that, maybe, and I'm saying maybe, I will apply to the military over here so that I may become a United States citizen. I'm not quite sure about that, because the other choice for me will be marrying someone from the United States, which I don't really foresee in my future. And it's not because I will marry someone from the United States, it's just that I don't even think, I don't have a concept really of marriage. I don't really believe in that, and also I'm way too young to get married at this point in my life. I want to get married afterwards, if I ever do.
Okay.
So